The settlement had grown into a small city. Domes covered the surface like glass flowers, each one filled with the cold air that Villani needed. Pathways connected them, heated tunnels where humans and Villani could walk together. Gardens had been planted. Schools had been built. Life had taken root. Captain Unipark stood at the edge of the settlement, watching children play in one of the dome parks. Human children chased Villani children across the grass. The Villani glowed when they ran, their lights flickering with joy. The human children laughed, trying to catch the living lights. It was strange. It was wonderful. It was home. Mirith found her there, watching the children. Doham says the new reactor design is ready, she reported. He wants you to see it. I will come soon. Yuna did not look away from the children. I still cannot believe this is real sometimes. 6 months ago, they were dying in broken ships. Now they are playing with our children. You made this happen. We all made this happen. I just made the first call. Mirith stood beside her in comfortable silence. They had become friends over these months. Two people from different species who had discovered they understood each other perfectly. There is news from Earth, Mirith said after a while. The Assembly is meeting again. They are discussing humanity. I know. Are you worried? Yuna thought about it. I was, at first. But now, I think I understand something I did not understand before. The Assembly's power comes from fear. Everyone is afraid of what they might do. But we showed the galaxy that you do not have to be afraid. You can stand up. You can say no. And you might survive. You did more than survive. You inspired others. This was true. Over the past 6 months, the small coalition of minor species had grown. The Drenari, the Quelith, the Urvani, and a dozen other races had formed new trade agreements with Earth. They exchanged technology and resources. They shared knowledge and skills. The Assembly had tried to punish humanity with economic sanctions. But the minor species had filled the gap. Earth was no longer dependent on the great powers. It had built something new. The Villani Council wants to meet with you, Mirith said. Elder Thiessen has a request. Yuna finally turned away from the children. Then let us not keep them waiting. The Villani Council had been established to govern the refugee community. Elder Thiessen led it, but he ruled by wisdom rather than authority. The Villani had learned hard lessons about what happened when power was concentrated in too few hands. Yuna entered the council chamber, a large dome decorated with patterns of light. The Villani created art by shaping their own glow, and the walls shimmered with images of their lost homeworld. Thiessen rose to greet her. He was stronger now than when she had first met him. His glow was steady and bright. He no longer looked like a dying man leading a dying people. He looked like a leader with hope for the future. Captain Park, he said. Thank you for coming. You said you had a request. We do. Thiessen gestured to a device in the center of the room. It projected an image of the galaxy, thousands of stars spinning slowly in the air. The Villani have studied the stars for 50,000 years. We have knowledge that humans do not possess. We have already given you our astronomical data. A gift beyond anything we deserved, Yuna said. Perhaps, but we have something more to offer. Something beyond data. He touched the projection, and it zoomed into a distant region of space. There are places in this galaxy where ancient civilizations left behind their technology. Machines that could solve problems we cannot even imagine. Power sources that never run out. Cures for diseases. Tools for building worlds. Yuna studied the projection. You know where these places are? We have suspected for millennia, but we never had the strength to reach them alone. Our ships were not fast enough. Our technology was not advanced enough. Thiessen turned to face her. But with human help, we could explore together. We could discover together. We could grow stronger together. A partnership. More than that, an alliance. Not just between two species, but a new way of doing things in this galaxy. A coalition where the small help the small. Where the weak protect the weak. Where no one is ever abandoned again. The words hung in the air like a promise. Yuna thought about what he was offering. It was not just exploration or technology. It was a vision of what the galaxy could become. A galaxy where the Assembly's cruelty was not the only option. A galaxy where compassion mattered. I will have to speak with Earth's government, she said. This is not a decision I can make alone. Of course. Take whatever time you need. But Yuna already knew what she would recommend. She had known since the moment she first heard the Villani's cry for help. Some partnerships were meant to be. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Assembly convened to discuss the human situation. Councillor Brevin stood at the center platform, his cold eyes scanning the representatives. He had prepared arguments for punishing Earth. He had gathered support from the Valaxians and other major powers. He was ready to put humanity in its place. But before he could speak, something unexpected happened. The Drenari ambassador rose. The Drenari Confederacy withdraws from the Galactic Assembly. Silence fell over the chamber. We have decided to join the coalition of allied species, the ambassador continued. This new organization, led by Earth and the Villani, better represents our values. We believe in helping those in need. The Assembly clearly does not. Before anyone could respond, the Quel'Ath representative stood. The Quel'Ath Collective also withdraws. We stand with humanity. Then the Irani. Then 3 more species. Then 5 more. Councillor Brevin watched in shock as a third of the minor species walked out of the assembly chamber. They did not argue. They did not negotiate. They simply left. The Valaxian ambassador leaned close to Brevin. This is your fault, he hissed. You pushed too hard. Now look what has happened. I pushed too hard? You are the ones who sent a fleet to murder refugees. And you are the one who started this by refusing them shelter in the first place. The argument continued, but it no longer mattered. The damage was done. That evening, Councillor Brevin sent a message to Captain Park. He expected her to gloat. He expected her to make demands. Instead, she simply accepted his call. You have destabilized centuries of order, he said. Was it worth it? Yuna's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired but determined. Order that requires abandoning the helpless is not order, she replied. It is cruelty with a schedule. We did not destabilize anything. We showed the galaxy what was already broken. You will regret this. The great powers will not forget. Maybe, but the people we helped will not forget either. And there are more of them than there are of you. She ended the call. On Titan, a ceremony was held to mark the official founding of the coalition of allied species. Representatives from 14 civilizations gathered in the largest dome, surrounded by Villani light and human warmth. A monument was unveiled at the center of the settlement. It was a sculpture created by Villani artists, shapes of light intertwined with human hands reaching upward. The light shifted and changed, showing all the colors of hope. The inscription was carved in both languages. When the galaxy abandoned them, humanity declared, "We stand with you." Elder Thiessen spoke to the gathering. Today, we remember where we have been. We remember the darkness. We remember the fear. We remember the moment when we thought all hope was lost. His glow pulsed with emotion. But we also remember the voice that came through the darkness. A human voice. A captain who promised that help was coming. Who promised that we were not alone. He turned to Yuna, who stood among her crew. Humans taught us something important. They taught us that kindness is not weakness. They taught us that compassion is not foolishness. They taught us that standing with others even when it costs you everything, is the only thing that truly matters. Una stepped forward to stand beside him. We did not do this alone, she said. The Dronari helped. The Quel'Ath helped. The Orvani helped. Dozens of species came together because they saw something worth protecting. The Vellani's light reminded us all why we reached for the stars in the first place. She looked at her crew. At Taiho, who had doubted but never wavered. At Jihei, who had healed so many. At Dahan, who had kept broken ships flying with nothing but skill and stubbornness. At Sujin, who had guided them through every danger. Someone asked me once why humans help strangers, Una continued. I did not have a good answer then, but I think I do now. We help because we remember. We remember being alone. We remember being afraid. We remember what it felt like when someone finally reached out a hand. She raised her own hand. That memory is our greatest gift. It is what makes us human, and it is what will build the future we want to see. Around the monument, Vellani and humans and a dozen other species stood together. They were different in so many ways. Different bodies, different cultures, different histories. But in that moment, they were one. They were a coalition of the abandoned, the forgotten, the overlooked. They were the species that the galaxy had tried to ignore. And together, they had changed everything. As Titan's night fell and Saturn's rings painted the sky with light, the Vellani began to glow brighter than they ever had before. It was a light that could be seen from space. Within 2 days, every major species knew about the human intervention. Communication networks carried the story from station to station, from world to world. A young species with no political power had defied the Galactic Assembly's decision. A single relief ship had answered a call that the great empires had ignored. Some found it amusing. Others found it foolish. But no one could ignore it. On Station Concordia, Councillor Brevin read the reports with growing anger. This was not how things worked. Small species did not challenge decisions made by the Assembly. Minor civilizations did not interfere with matters that did not concern them. The humans must be corrected, he announced to the Council. They must understand their place. The Assembly agreed. A formal warning was sent to Earth's government. The message was clear. Withdraw support for the Vellani convoy or face consequences. Trade sanctions were threatened. Diplomatic relations were questioned. The protection that Assembly membership offered would be reconsidered. On Earth, the government received the warning. The politicians who had opposed Admiral Beak's decision felt justified. We told you, they said. We told you this would happen. But something unexpected also happened. Across human space, ordinary people heard about the convoy. They heard about Captain Park and the Horizon's promise. They heard about the Vellani who glowed when they had hope and dimmed when they lost it. And they were angry. Not at the humans who had helped. Not at Captain Park or Admiral Beak. They were angry at the galaxy. Protests erupted on Earth and on the colonies. People held signs that said, "We stand with you," in dozens of languages. Donations poured into relief funds. Volunteers offered to help in any way they could. The government watched the public reaction and realized something important. Turning away from the Vellani now would not just anger the Assembly. It would anger their own people. For the moment, the relief mission continued. In the convoy, the work went on day and night. Doan Choi had not slept in 3 days. He moved from ship to ship, fixing broken systems, patching damaged hulls, keeping the convoy alive through pure stubbornness. His hands were burned from electrical fires. His eyes were red from exhaustion. But he did not stop. On the 7th Vellani ship he visited, he met Mirith. She was young by Vellani standards, barely an adult. She had been a scientist on the homeworld, studying energy systems. Now she was the only person who understood how the convoy's failing reactors worked. "This coupling is wrong," Dawn said, pointing at a power junction. "Energy is leaking. That is why your lights keep failing." Marith looked at his work. "You fixed it faster than I could have." "I have done this before. Many times. On refugee ships. On any ship that needed help." He wiped grease from his hands. "Ships break. People need them fixed. That is my job." Marith helped him move to the next junction. They worked together in silence for a while. Her glow was dim, but it flickered brighter when she concentrated on the work. "Why do you do this?" she finally asked. "Your species could have looked away. Everyone else did." Dohan considered the question. He was not good with words. He preferred the language of machines, which was logical and clear. "Machines do not care who built them," he said slowly. "A Vellani engine breaks the same way a human engine breaks. A life support system fails the same way everywhere. Physics does not care about politics." "That does not answer my question." "Maybe not." He finished the repair and tested the connection. Power flowed smoothly now. "But I think it is the same with people. Suffering is suffering. Fear is fear. A child crying because they are cold and hungry sounds the same in any language. We help because we can. Because we know how. Because not helping would be wrong." Marith's glow brightened noticeably. "You are strange creatures, so I've been told." Meanwhile, far from the convoy, danger was approaching. The Valaxian Empire had decided to act. They would not attack the convoy directly. That would look bad. Instead, they sent a patrol fleet to escort the Vellani vessels away from Valaxian space. In practice, this meant herding them toward the outer reaches, a region of dangerous asteroid fields and unstable stars. It was a death sentence delivered with polite words. Captain Park received the report from the 3 human ships that had joined her. The Valaxian fleet was approaching. They had one day, maybe less. "How many ships?" she asked. 6 cruisers, Taiho reported. "Any one of them could destroy our entire fleet without effort. All of us, plus the convoy, would take them perhaps 5 minutes." Yuna closed her eyes and thought. The convoy was still days away from human space. Even if they ran at maximum speed, they could not outrun Valaxian cruisers. "Can we negotiate?" Sujin asked. "Negotiate what?" Taiho replied. "We have nothing they want. We have no leverage. We have one thing," Yuna said quietly. "We have the truth." She opened her eyes. "Open a channel. All frequencies. I want the whole galaxy to hear this." Taiho hesitated. "Captain, what are you going to do?" "Something stupid, probably." She stood up. "But stupid has gotten us this far." The channel opened. Yuna's voice went out across the stars, reaching every ship, every station, every communication network in the sector. "This is Captain Yuna Park of the Earthship Horizon's Promise," she announced. "I am speaking to the Valaxian patrol fleet approaching the Vellani convoy. I am also speaking to anyone else who is listening." She paused. "The Vellani are refugees. Their world is gone. Their star is dying. They have nowhere to go. The Galactic Assembly refused to help them. Now Valaxian ships are coming to push them into dangerous space where they will almost certainly die." Another pause. "This convoy is under human protection. I am telling the Valaxians, and I am telling the galaxy, that any hostile action against these ships will be considered an act of war against Earth." Across the bridge, Yuna's crew stared at her in shock. Taiho looked pale. Even Sujin had stopped breathing. Yuna continued. "Earth is small. Earth is young. Earth is no great fleet, no ancient technology, no political power. But Earth will not stand by and watch innocent people die. If you want to destroy this convoy, you will have to go through us first. And the whole galaxy will see what you do." She ended the transmission. The bridge was silent. "Captain," Taiho finally said, "you just threatened the most powerful empire in the galaxy. We cannot fight them. We cannot even slow them down. They will crush us." "Maybe," Yuna admitted. "But they will have to do it in front of everyone." Every species in the galaxy just heard that message. If the Valaxians attack helpless refugees now, everyone will know exactly what kind of empire they really are. And if they do not care about their reputation, then we die. Yuna's voice was steady. But we die standing. We die with our honor intact. And maybe, just maybe, our deaths will mean something. The crew was silent. Then, one by one, they turned back to their stations. "Sujin," Taiho said quietly, "plot a course through the asteroid field nearby. It is dangerous, but it will force the Valaxians to follow single file if they pursue. That might buy us time." "Already done," Sujin replied. Dohan's voice came through the communication system from one of the Villani ships. "I heard the transmission. What do you need?" "Keep the convoy moving," Yuna ordered. "Whatever happens, keep them moving toward human space." "Understood." Hours passed. The Valaxian fleet drew closer. And then something unexpected happened. The cruisers slowed down. They did not stop, but they did not attack either. They simply followed at a distance, watching. The Valaxians had not expected defiance. They had expected the humans to run or surrender. They had not prepared for someone who would stand and fight, even knowing they would lose. More importantly, they had not prepared for the whole galaxy to be watching. The convoy continued toward human space. The Valaxians followed for another day, then quietly turned away. Officially, they reported that the territorial matter had been resolved. Unofficially, they had blinked. And humanity, the youngest and weakest species in the galactic community, had just won its first political victory. The convoy sailed on toward safety. The convoy reached Titan after 2 weeks of travel. It had been the longest 2 weeks of Captain Yuna Park's life. Titan was one of humanity's oldest colonies, built on the largest moon of Saturn. It was cold and distant, far from Earth's warmth. But that made it perfect for the Villani. Their bodies needed cold temperatures and thin atmospheres. Titan could provide both. Human engineers had worked day and night to prepare for the refugees. They built atmospheric domes that could hold Villani air. They constructed shelters that maintained Villani temperatures. They prepared food that Villani could eat, medical supplies they could use, and spaces where they could live. It was not enough for 200,000 people. But it was a start. The first Villani ship landed on Titan's surface as the sun set behind Saturn's rings. Elder Thiessen stepped out of the vessel and looked at the world that would become his people's new home. He was not alone. Thousands of Villani followed him, stepping onto solid ground for the first time in weeks. They had lived in damaged ships with failing life support. They had survived on limited food and limited hope. They had watched the galaxy turn its back on them. Now they stood on a moon that welcomed them. As they stepped outside, something beautiful happened. The Villani began to glow. Their dim, flickering lights grew stronger. Blue and silver and white radiated from their bodies, pushing back the darkness of Titan's surface. It was like watching stars being born. It was like watching hope return. Dr. G.A. Lee watched from the edge of the landing area. Tears ran down her face. "They are glowing," she whispered. "They are really glowing." Beside her, Mirith stood in silence. Her own light was brighter than it had been since G.A. first met her. The young scientist looked at the domes, at the shelters, at all the work that humans had done for her people. "We did not expect this," Mirith said. "We did not expect any of this." "Neither did we," G.A. admitted. "A few weeks ago, We were just one small ship. Now, she gestured at the settlement, at the dozens of human workers still building, still preparing. Now we are trying to save a civilization. Why? Mirith asked. It was the same question Doan had tried to answer. The same question every Vellani kept asking. Ga thought about it carefully. When I was young, she said, my grandmother told me stories about the old wars on Earth, about times when people fled from violence and disaster. She said that in those times, you could tell the good people from the bad people by one simple test. Good people helped. Bad people looked away. She turned to face Mirith directly. For most of my life, I thought those were just old stories. I thought humanity had moved past all that. Then I heard the Assembly's verdict. I heard them tell your people to go die in the darkness. And I realized the old stories were not about the past at all. They were about right now. They were about the choice we all have to make, every day, about who we want to be. Mirith's glow pulsed softly. Your grandmother sounds wise. She was. She also said something else. She said that light attracts light. That kindness creates more kindness. We have that belief too, Mirith said, surprised. It is one of our oldest teachings. Then maybe our peoples are not so different after all. The settlement grew over the following days. Human and Vellani worked side by side, building shelters, establishing systems, creating a community from nothing. It was hard work. There were problems and arguments and frustrations. Two species trying to live together had many difficulties to overcome, but they kept trying, and something unexpected began to happen across the galaxy. Minor species, the small civilizations that had no power in the Assembly, started sending help. The Drenari, a peaceful species known for their medicine, sent shiploads of medical supplies. The Quelith, who were expert farmers, sent seeds and food that Vellani could eat. The Orvani, brilliant engineers, sent technical specialists to help with construction. None of these species had voted in the Assembly. None of them had refused the Vellani. They had simply been ignored, their voices too quiet to be heard. Now they were making their voices heard in a different way. Why are they helping? Elder Thiessen asked when the third supply ship arrived. They owe us nothing. Captain Park, who had stayed on Titan to help coordinate the settlement, had a theory. Because they saw what we did, she said. They saw that it was possible to say no to the Assembly. They saw that someone could stand up for what was right and not be destroyed. We gave them permission to be brave. Thiessen considered this. You have changed the galaxy, Captain. We have not changed anything yet. We have only shown that change is possible. On Station Concordia, Councillor Brevin was forced to answer difficult questions. Why had the Assembly refused the Vellani? Why had the Valaxian patrol fleet withdrawn? Why were minor species now acting independently instead of following Assembly decisions? He had no good answers. The Valaxian ambassador came to see him privately. This situation is damaging our reputation, the ambassador said. Images of glowing Vellani children in human shelters are spreading across every communication network. We look like monsters. Then perhaps we should not have acted like monsters, Brevin replied sharply. But he knew the ambassador was right. The galaxy was watching. And what they saw was not flattering to the great powers. On Titan, the settlement continued to grow. Mirith and Doan worked together on a new energy system that combined human and Vellani technology. It was more efficient than either could have built alone. This is remarkable, Doan said, studying the design. Your people's understanding of energy conversion is centuries ahead of ours. And your people's engineering skills are practical in ways ours never were, Mirith replied. Together, we can build things neither species could build alone. Together, Doan repeated. He liked that word. Dr. G.A. Lee established a medical center that treated both humans and Vellani. She trained human doctors in Vellani medicine and Vellani healers in human techniques. The exchange of knowledge benefited everyone. Captain Park received a private message through encrypted channels. It came from an anonymous source, someone inside the assembly who did not want to be identified. "You have made powerful enemies today," the message said. "But you have also made something more valuable. You have made the galaxy watch. They are seeing things they cannot unsee. They are asking questions they have never asked before. Whatever happens next, you have planted a seed that cannot be unplanted." Yuna read the message twice. Then she deleted it. "Captain?" Taiho appeared in her doorway. "Elder Thiessen is asking for you. He wants to show you something." She followed Taiho to the center of the settlement, where a crowd of Vellani and humans had gathered. Elder Thiessen stood on a small platform, his glow brighter than she had ever seen it. "Today," he announced, "we celebrate. Not because our struggles are over. They are not. But because we are alive to face those struggles together." The Vellani around him began to pulse with light, their glow synchronizing into a beautiful pattern. It was music made visible. It was joy made tangible. "We thank our human friends," Thiessen continued. "They saw us when no one else would look. They helped us when no one else would move. They stood with us when no one else would stand." He turned to Yuna. "Captain Park, on behalf of the Vellani people, I want to give you something. Our race has collected astronomical knowledge for 50,000 years. We have mapped stars that humans do not know exist. We have observed phenomena that your scientists have never seen. This knowledge is our greatest treasure." He paused. "We give it to you, to humanity, because you gave us something more valuable than knowledge. You gave us hope." Yuna did not know what to say. 50,000 years of astronomical data was a gift beyond measure. It would advance human science by centuries. "We did not help you for rewards," she finally said. "We know," Thiessen replied. "That is why you deserve them." The celebration continued late into Titan's long night. Humans and Vellani danced together, ate together, laughed together. For one night, at least, the troubles of the galaxy seemed far away, but Yuna knew they would return. The assembly would not forget. The Valaxians would not forgive. There would be consequences for what humanity had done. But looking at the glowing Vellani, looking at the humans who had worked so hard to help them, looking at this strange and beautiful community they had built together, Yuna found that she did not care. Some things were worth the consequences. Some things were worth everything. The horizon's promise cut through the darkness of space at maximum speed. Inside the ship, no one slept. There was too much work to do. Captain Yuna Park stood at the main display, studying the information they had gathered about the Vellani convoy. 200,000 refugees spread across 47 ships. Most of those ships were civilian transports never designed for long journeys. Many were already failing. "We have 12 hours, she said to her crew. "Let us use them well." In the medical bay, Dr. G.A. Lee read everything she could find about Vellani biology. They were silicon-based life forms, which meant their bodies worked very differently from humans. They breathed a mixture of nitrogen and argon. They needed temperatures much colder than humans preferred. Their glowing skin was not just for show. It was how they communicated emotion, and it was connected to their health. When they glow brightly, they are strong, G.A. explained to the others through the ship's communication system. When the glow fades, they are sick or dying. Right now, according to the reports, most of the convoy is barely glowing at all. Can we help them medically? Yuna asked. I think so. Their basic needs are not so different from ours. Food, water, rest, and hope. We can provide 3 of those. The 4th one. She paused. The 4th one they have to find themselves. In the engineering section, Do Hon Choi prepared repair kits and emergency supplies. He was a quiet man who spoke more to machines than to people. But he was the best engineer Yuna had ever worked with. "The convoy ships are old," he reported. "Some are more than 100 years old by Earth standards. Life support is failing on at least 12 vessels. Power systems are unstable on 20 more. If we do not help them within 4 days, some of those ships will become tombs." The word hung in the air. Tombs. "Then we work fast," Yuna said simply. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the news of Captain Park's transmission had reached the United Space Command. The politicians were not happy. Admiral Dongwon Beek sat in a conference room, surrounded by government officials who talked too much and understood too little. They were afraid. That was the truth of it. They were afraid of what the Galactic Assembly might do if Earth helped the Villani. "We cannot afford to anger the major powers," one official said. "Our trade agreements depend on their goodwill. The Valaxians alone could crush our colonies if they chose," another added. "We must think of our own people first." Admiral Beek listened to all of this. He was an old man with white hair and a face full of wrinkles. He had served in space for 40 years. He had seen humanity grow from a single planet to a dozen colonies. He had watched his species reach for the stars, and he remembered why they had done it. "Captain Park has already made contact with the convoy," he said quietly. "She has promised them help. If we abandon her now, if we tell her to turn around, what does that say about us? What does that say about humanity?" "It says we are smart enough to survive," the first official replied. "No," Admiral Beek said. "It says we are not worth surviving." He stood up. "I am authorizing the deployment of 3 additional relief ships to support the Horizon's promise. This is a humanitarian mission. If the Assembly wants to punish us for saving lives, then let them. Let the whole galaxy see what kind of people they truly are." The officials protested. They argued. They threatened political consequences. Admiral Beek walked out of the room. 12 hours later, the Horizon's promise arrived at the convoy. Yuna had seen refugee camps before. She had seen disaster zones. She had seen the aftermath of war. But nothing had prepared her for this. The Villani ships hung in space like wounded animals. Some had holes in their hulls patched with whatever materials the refugees could find. Others had entire sections dark and cold because life support had failed. Warning lights blinked on almost every vessel. "There are so many of them," Sujin whispered. "And they are all counting on someone to help," Yuna replied. "Today, that someone is us." She ordered the ship to approach the lead vessel, a large transport called the Light of Home. This was where Elder Thiessen waited. "I am going aboard," Yuna announced. "Taiho, you have command. Dohan, start emergency repairs on the most critical ships. GA, prepare the medical bay for patients." Taiho stepped forward. "Captain, are you sure you should go alone? We do not know these people. We do not know if they trust us." "That is exactly why I need to go," Yuna said. "Trust is built face to face. They need to see that we are real, that we mean what we say." She took a small shuttle across to the Light of Home. The docking process was difficult because the Villani ship's systems were failing. But eventually, the airlock opened. Yuna stepped into the Villani vessel. The air was cold. Much colder than she had expected. Her breath came out in small clouds. She pulled her jacket tighter and walked forward. The corridor was filled with Villani. They were tall, thin beings with skin that should have glowed like moonlight. But most of them barely flickered. They looked at Yuna with large, dark eyes. Some stepped back in fear. Others simply stared. "I am looking for Elder Thiessen," Yuna said. A path opened before her. She walked through it, feeling hundreds of eyes watching her every step. Elder Thiessen waited in what had once been the ship's main hall. It was crowded with refugees sitting on the floor, lying against the walls, huddled together for warmth. Children clung to their parents. The elderly sat in silence. Thiessen himself stood at the center. He was taller than the others, and his glow was slightly brighter. But even he looked tired. So very tired. "You are Captain Park," he said. His voice was deep and musical, like wind through a canyon. "I am. You came. I said I would." Thiessen studied her for a long moment. "The galaxy has told us we are worthless. The Assembly has told us we deserve to die. Why would humans help us? Your species is young. You have no power in galactic politics. You have nothing to gain and everything to lose." Una thought about his question. She thought about all the logical reasons to stay away. The political risks. The economic costs. The danger dot, and then she thought about something else. 300 years ago, she said, my ancestors lived in a country called Korea. There were many wars. Many times, people had to run from their homes. Many times, they were refugees, just like you. They knew what it felt like to be abandoned. They knew what it felt like when the world turned its back on them. She paused. Humans remember. We remember the pain. We remember the fear. And we remember the people who helped us when no one else would. Those people saved us. They gave us hope when we had none. Now it is our turn. We stand with you because someone once stood with us. Thessan's glow brightened slightly. Around him, other Velani began to glow a little brighter too. You may regret this, he said quietly. The Valaxians do not forgive. The Assembly does not forget. Maybe, Una admitted. But I will not regret trying. My crew will not regret trying. And if the whole galaxy turns against us for helping innocent people, then maybe the galaxy is wrong. For the first time in many weeks, Elder Thiessen smiled. You are a strange species, he said. But perhaps that is exactly what this galaxy needs. Outside, the Horizon's Promise began its work. Dauhan and a team of engineers boarded the most damaged ships and started repairs. GA set up a temporary medical station for the sickest refugees. Supplies were distributed. Power cells were shared. It was not enough. It would never be enough. One small ship could not save 200,000 people, but it was a start. And somewhere in the stars, 3 more human ships were already on their way. The message came through every communication channel in the galaxy. It was a cry for help, and it carried the weight of 200,000 lives. Elder Thiessen stood on the bridge of his damaged ship and spoke into the recorder. His body, like all Velani, was tall and thin. His skin glowed with soft blue light, but that light was fading. When Velani were healthy and hopeful, they shone brightly. When they were weak and afraid, their light grew dim. This is Elder Thiessen of the Velani convoy, he said. Our homeworld is gone. Our star is dying faster than anyone predicted. We have 200,000 souls aboard these ships. Our children are hungry. Our systems are failing. We ask the Galactic Assembly for help. We ask for shelter. We ask for mercy. He ended the message and sent it across the stars. 3 weeks had passed since the Velani left their burning world. Their ships were old. Their food was running low. Every day, another system broke down. Every night, another family went to sleep not knowing if they would wake up. The Galactic Assembly received the message on Station Concordia, a massive space station that served as the center of galactic politics. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Hall to discuss the Velani situation. Councillor Brevin of the Phoenix species stood at the center platform. He was a creature of sharp angles and cold eyes. He had led the Assembly for 30 years, and he was very good at saying no. The Velani request is clear, he announced. They seek emergency aid and temporary settlement on any member world. We will now hear from the representatives. The Korath ambassador spoke first. The Korath were large beings covered in thick scales. "We sympathize with the Vallani tragedy," he said. "However, our resources are limited. We cannot accept refugees at this time." The Phoenix representative nodded. "We have studied Vallani biology. They breathe different air. They need different temperatures. Bringing them to our world would require changes we cannot afford." One by one, the great species of the galaxy gave their reasons. Some talked about money. Some talked about space. Some talked about politics. The Valaxian Empire, the most powerful civilization in known space, did not even bother with excuses. "The Vallani are a primitive species," the Valaxian ambassador said simply. "They have nothing to offer. Accepting them would be a waste of resources." Councillor Brevin listened to all arguments. Then he raised his hand for silence. "The Assembly has heard the concerns. We will now vote on the Vallani request." The vote took only moments. The result was clear. "The request is denied," Brevin announced. "No member world will accept the Vallani refugees. The Assembly offers its sympathies and suggests the Vallani seek territory in uncharted space." He said this as if he were talking about the weather. As if 200,000 lives were not hanging in the balance. Far away from Station Concordia, floating in the darkness between stars, the Vallani convoy waited. Elder Thiessen stood before his people and listened to the Assembly's verdict through crackling speakers. Around him, the Vallani's light grew even dimmer. "What do we do now?" asked Mirith, a young scientist who had helped design the convoy's life support systems. Her glow was almost gone. Thiessen had no answer, but someone else did. The human ship Horizon's Promise was a medium-sized vessel designed for relief missions. It carried food, medicine, and supplies to colonies in need. It was not a warship. It was not important. By galactic standards, it was barely worth noticing. Captain Unipark sat in her command chair and listened to the same broadcast that the Vallani had received. Her crew gathered around her in silence. Una was 38 years old. She had short black hair and tired eyes. She had spent 15 years flying relief missions to forgotten corners of space. She had seen suffering before. She had seen people abandoned before. But she had never seen anything like this. 200,000 people, said Lieutenant Taiho Kim, her second in command. And they just said no. Dr. G.A. Lee, the ship's medical officer, shook her head slowly. How can they do that? How can they just leave them to die? Engineer Doan Choi looked at the navigation display. The convoy is not far from here. Maybe 12 hours at full speed. Pilot Sujin Han turned to look at the captain. What do we do? Una did not answer immediately. She stared at the communication screen, where the Assembly's verdict was still displayed. She thought about what she had just heard. She thought about the Vallani, floating in damaged ships, watching their hope die with the Assembly's words. She thought about Earth's history, about all the times humans had fled from war, from disaster, from death. About all the times someone had closed a door in their faces. She thought about what it meant to be abandoned. Then she made her decision. Open a channel, she said. All frequencies. I want the convoy to hear this. Sujin's fingers moved across the controls. Channel open, Captain. Una stood up. She took a deep breath. The Lani convoy. This is Captain Una Park of the Earthship Horizon's Promise, she said. Her voice was calm but strong. I heard the Assembly's decision. I want you to know that Earth did not vote. We are not members of the Assembly, but we are here. She paused. Hold your position. Do not give up. Help is coming. She ended the transmission. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Captain, Taiho said carefully, we are one ship. A small ship. We have limited supplies. We have no authority. What exactly are we going to do? Yuna looked at her crew. These were good people. People who had chosen to spend their lives helping others. People who understood that some things mattered more than safety. We are going to show up, she said. That is what we do first. We show up. We let them know they are not alone. And then we figure out the rest. Doham was already moving to his station. I'll prepare emergency repair kits. If their ships are as damaged as the reports say, they'll need help just staying alive. GA nodded. I'll review Vellani biology. We need to know how to treat them if anyone is injured. Sujin's hands flew across the navigation controls. Course plotted. 12 hours to the convoy. Taiho looked at his captain for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. I suppose sleep is for other people tonight. Sleep is for people who don't have 200,000 lives waiting for them, Yuna replied. The Horizon's Promise turned toward the convoy and accelerated into the darkness. On Station Concordia, Counselor Brevin received a report about a small human ship heading toward the Vellani. He read it, dismissed it, and moved on to other business. Humans were young and foolish. They would learn eventually that the galaxy was not a kind place. They would learn that sentiment had no value. They would learn to look away, just like everyone else. He was wrong, but he would not understand that for some time. In the convoy, Elder Thyssen played Captain Park's message for his people. For the first time in weeks, the Vellani began to glow just a little bit brighter. Hope, it seemed, was not dead after all. It was just coming from an unexpected direction.